Hello, everybody. This is Craig Renti, and welcome to the world's greatest podcast. I'm excited for today's guest, Anthony Gaud. Anthony um, is an Emmy Award-winning executive, entrepreneur, and co-founder of G3 Esports, Gaud Gaming Group,
Mhm.
and has more than 25 years experience spanning toys, television, video on demand. He's been instrumental in getting legalized gambling in esports up and running, and I'm really interested because I'm in New Jersey, and Anthony, I know you've done a lot of work in the state of New Jersey, and I know you've got some interesting things going on with Rutgers University and your pilot license program. So I'd love to talk to you about all of that stuff. Welcome to the show, Anthony.
Thanks, Craig. I'm excited to talk. So this is I don't usually get to talk about myself. I usually talk about other people. So this is a switch for me. So thank you for having me on.
Yeah, and there's no pressure, but today you have to be the world's greatest podcast guest. So see if you can keep up.
I'll give it
Now,
a shot.
we were talking right before, and you mentioned that you do your own radio show, like
Mhm.
real radio, like with a dial and an antenna, and you have to listen over the air. So,
Right.
how is it being on the other side of the sort of the interview paradigm here?
It's I enjoy doing radio because I enjoy the idea that somebody's listening to me. Supposedly somebody is. But no, we started this radio show during COVID as a podcast. And I was approached by a radio station that said, "Do you want to turn this into a bi-weekly radio show?" And I said, "I don't know what I'm doing, but sure, that seems like fun." The station's real close to my house, and at first we were looking for topics, and I remembered I knew people when I used to work in Hollywood, and I figured, well, let me bring some of those guys on to start off, and at least it gives me something to talk about. And since that, I mean, we've been doing it now on the radio for about 2 years. We've gotten some really pretty big guests. As I
Hmm.
mentioned earlier, we got Dan Gilroy, the co-creator of Andor. Coming up, we have the creator of the John Wick series, Matt Dinneman, author of the best-selling Dungeon Crawler Carl series. We have um, just a number of, I think Dan DiDio's next week, former DC president. It's just a lot of fun. So talking to people, we take the angle that we know what you've done. You've done this movie or that book or that TV show or that video game because we also had the creator of Doom and Quake on the show. But we want to know, how did you get here? We want to know about you, the person, and that makes the show very, very interesting. And so far, we have not had a bad interview. I think we've had about 50 interviews over the last 2 years.
Hmm.
Not one that we could say, well, that could have gone better. All of them have been really, really interesting because normally these people are not asked about their personal lives. They're asked about the project when they do these junkets. And we take a different angle. We want to know about the person.
Well, let's talk about you then, the person. Because I love that too. I love, rather than just focusing on the business. So, can you just tell us a little bit about your experience and particularly for me, um, I'm thinking about the esports and the online gambling and all of that sort of because that's seen a major shift over the years from when we were younger and it was a no-no to now where everybody's doing it. And I'd love to talk a little bit about how your work there has really transformed how people watch sports because it's amazing. And I've got a couple of stories I want to pass by you and get your reactions to them.
Well, let's start there. So years ago, um, I'd say probably around 2015, one of the companies that I owned in Korea, we went to Seoul on a regular basis. And when you go back to your hotel room and turn the television on, there were a lot of channels devoted to, um, well, I didn't know what it was at first. And being the video game lover that I am, and we talked about that, I have a little bit of a museum at the house and I have a lot of games. I'd never seen an arena where people were watching someone play video games. The whole idea seemed insane to me, but very, very cool. So I saw this one night. The next day, I went to the office in Seoul, and I said, "Do you know what this is?" 'Cause I took a picture of it on my phone, and they said, "Yeah, that's they're playing StarCraft." I said, they're playing. It doesn't make any sense to me. It's like, what was this like a one-off? Oh no, this happens every week. And so there's a huge audience. That just seems awesome to me. So it was in the back of my mind. I thought, in America, we created video games here, and I thought, well, we have to bring that back home somehow. And it's been a challenge. Honestly, it's been um, the American audiences are so different from the Asian audiences, South America and European. We're in all three of those regions. It's huge. Where the American audiences are more fractured. Um, in these cities, like Seoul, for example, you can go down to the corner, go to the corner internet cafe, rent a computer, and play in these, very very high end machines, and play in these
Mhm.
esports tournaments and qualify for esports tournaments. So because you do it, you tend to look up to other people that are doing it, and it's become as popular as baseball is here, football. Here in the states, we're a lot more individualized, and we don't tend to team up as much. So even though we've done a lot in the collegiate space, the professional esports scene, especially after COVID, um, took a pretty hard hit here in the United States. But I think it's coming around. We own our company, Godhammer Gaming Group. We own um, Sports Illustrated Esports. It's a partnership with Sports Illustrated, so we cover video games and video game events. Um, we get about 1 million, 2 million people a month coming to the site. It's brand new. We hope that grows. Um, but we've also been working on legalizing aspects of the esports space because it will tend to be a boost to people watching if they want if they have more of a if they have more of an interest in the outcome, instead of, if they don't follow a certain team by nature, um, they'll follow a certain player, and maybe they'll be interested in the results and their wager on it. So really, for about 5 years now, we've been working on creating an ecosystem, supporting that ecosystem with media, and getting casino interest in making this a bigger thing, which is taking it a little bit of time. But from my previous ventures, I've noticed that it doesn't matter how long it takes. If there's something there, you should pursue it. And if you have investors like we do that are really supportive, you'll have the time to be able to build this ecosystem out. So I think esports wagering is going to be a big deal. Esports itself is becoming a big deal, but I think organized esports will become a bigger deal.
Mm.
Right now, it's at the collegiate level, but I think it's going to expand into the pro levels once again. But just like everywhere else in the world, COVID really set everything up back quite a serious bit. And I'm hoping that in the next 3 to 5 years, we get some sense of normalcy, because esports is a great equalizer. You don't have to be big and strong. You don't have to be um, from a privileged family. You just have to be really good at playing video games. It doesn't really matter if you're male or female. It's all about your ability to play, and it is a team sport. It pushes communication. It pushes strategy. It pushes teamwork. So there's a lot of reasons why schools support it now. And I've been going on and on about this, and I'm probably going to rambling a little bit, but
No,
we are big supporters of it.
it's good. You know, my son is about to go into college, so it's interesting. We're doing the college tours, and one of a few of these tours, they talked about their esports programs. I'm like, what the heck is that? You guys are playing video games in college? Like that's crazy. But it's all the things you just mentioned, and I'll tell you what got me thinking about this was a few years ago, and he was much younger at the time. He's like, Dad, you gotta watch this game. I'm watching on YouTube. I'm like, oh, what is it? He goes, it's a speed race on Minecraft. I was like,
Oh yeah.
I was like, what is that? He's like, well, there's one guy and he goes as fast as he can to try to kill the dragon, and his five buddies are trying to kill him. And it was 30 minutes long. I was like, oh my God, this is gonna be awful. But I got so into it and I'm watching it, and we get to the end, and for those Minecraft people, he shoots at the dragon as he's dying and killing the dragon at the same time. So it was like this amazing finish. And we watched the finish like 5 times. Like, we're so into it. And then he's like, "See, I told you, Dad, this wasn't stupid after all." And I just thought that was amazing. Now, obviously, not gambling there is just sort of a competition online, friends or with their YouTube channel. But I was like, well, if they can do that, like if they can engage me, a 50-year-old guy, in a Minecraft competition, I guess if the two teams were playing football or trying to kill each other on the battlefield or whatever they're doing, or a car race, that would probably be as entertaining, right? And then me, there's only like I grew up on like all that we talked, all those video games behind you. I grew up on all of them.
Mhm.
Thousands of hours and thousands of quarters were spent at the arcade. But so I'm down to one video game that I play regularly, which is World Golf Tour.
Oh,
And
wow.
it's a realistic golf game, and they have their own competitions right in the platform, and you're not playing each other for money, but you have to buy chips and things like that. I'm like, this is pretty exciting, just like I'm going to be in the final round today and I got to play. So obviously not as high level as the folks you're dealing with, but it is fun, right? And then sort of, it gets my golf fix in if it's snowing out and I can't get on the course. And I'll tell you, we've had some friends over in the basement and we've played on the big screen, right? So we're sort of all competing in a room together. Just sort of it's not this lonely endeavor, some kid in his room by himself, but it really is a community that's brought into this, which surprised me, when I first sort of heard about all of this.
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack in what you said. One of the things that I was asked when I was in Atlantic City pushing for an esports bill, which we eventually did get passed in the state house, but in the earlier rounds when we were still discussing it, somebody said, "Why would anybody watch somebody else play video games?" And I said, "Well, why would you watch somebody play baseball? Why?"
That's exactly what my son said to me. He's like, "Dad, you watch golf. What are you talking about?
Right,
It's
it's
so
the same
boring."
thing, right? And you just have to stop thinking of them as something that's active and think of it as entertaining. And that goes back to where the United States is a little bit more fractured than these other areas. YouTube and Twitch, to some extent, people like watching other people play video games. And the reason is kind of twofold. One is the video game usually has a story in itself. But if it doesn't, the player creates a story just by playing it, like you said, where that one player was taking up the dragon. The player's journey is what the player's doing. I'm going to try to get the speed run. I'm going to achieve this thing in Fortnite or whatever. And if the player is entertaining enough and they're talking, people will tune in and watch. There's a couple of people that I watch myself, or games that I want to play that I don't have the time to play or the money to play to buy because I can't buy every game. So I'll watch somebody else play it and I'll feel like I have played it because I saw the
Right.
beginning and 2 or 3 hours of it. Um, but video games are arguably the biggest thing there is now. So it's something that Hollywood has been coming to uh, realize that, one of the reasons Minecraft made $1 billion this year is because people love Minecraft.
Yep.
So a Minecraft movie. Now, a lot of the big video game movies, Mario last year made a $1.5 billion. The Mario movie.
I
Video.
love New Guy. Remember that movie New Guy?
I
Or
actually like that movie quite a
yeah,
bit.
me too.
Yeah, I like that movie quite. I think we're interviewing that guy who created it as well in our radio show coming up. I like that movie. It was very surprising. Ryan Reynolds is always
Yep.
funny. You can't. His Deadpool and his other characters are great. Um, but video games are what once was a niche field are now very much mainstream. And you mentioned people like us in our 50s, we grew up playing that. So it's at least 50 years of this sort of activity happening and evolving. And it will continue evolving, from the consoles. Now people play on their phones. The Nintendo Switch 2 has been an amazing seller. I read today it sold 9 million units, which is a record. So
Right.
there are some people saying that uh, video game consoles were going away because of mobile phones. It doesn't seem to be the case at all. So video games are here to stay for the foreseeable future. And society has changed dramatically because of it. Amazon is incorporating gamification into the rewards for employees. It,
Right.
that gamification is something that's going on in a lot of different places, but we're taking the video games and putting it into the real world, which I think is ironic. And of course, Tron comes out in 2 weeks, which is the video game world coming into our world. Hopefully, it's a good movie. I love Tron.
That was one of the first video I remember playing that on my Intellivision, playing Tron on the
That was
Intellivision.
Discs of Tron. Yeah, that was a good, which is
How do
actually
you
one of the games
remember
I have
that?
back
Oh
there.
my gosh.
It's
Discs of Tron.
one of the games I have back there is Discs of Tron.
And so for Discs of Tron, we're
Yep,
going to nerd out a little bit. Used to get magazines that talked about video games. So when I was a kid,
I
at
still
the
get them.
at the end of the magazine, they would have all the scores of like the biggest scores, and my goal was to be in that magazine. So I beat the scores, and I had to take a picture with a camera
Yep.
and mail the picture in. And then the next month or 2 months later, my name was in the magazine for Discs of Tron, and it was like
You
the
did get
biggest
in.
thing. Uh, what's that?
You did get in.
I did get in.
Oh, congrats! That's
I
great.
got in. I don't have a copy of it anymore, so it's lost out there in the world somewhere.
I think that part of the promise of the internet was to connect everybody together. But I think we've also lost something in that connection where we've created such a large space that people tend to get, they tend to sectionalize it, into little tiny groups, micro groups. And because of that, what we used to consider mass culture, whether it's television shows or events or Christmas or whatever, people don't really experience as big events anymore unless there's something bad. And something like that, getting your name in a magazine, because there were like 3 or 4 major magazines back then. That was a big deal.
Was huge.
It's a
I
big
brought
deal.
it to school. I showed everyone, and it was like, wow, I can't believe you did that. And my mother yelled at me because I was playing this stupid video game, like until all hours of the night.
Yeah, yeah, that was my house too. But you would get that magazine, and you get a couple 100,000 other people reading that magazine, and you felt a sense of pride.
Right.
Nowadays, how many viewers do you have on, YouTube, or do you have on Instagram? It's really changed quite a bit.
I was watching an interview with Rob Reiner from,
Oh, I love it.
All
Yeah,
in the Family.
I
And
just saw his new movie. Oh my God, Spinal Tap 2.
oh, okay. I haven't seen it. Have
Yeah, it's
not
great.
seen it. Well, he was talking about All in the Family. He debuted in 1971, and he was saying that, back then there were 200 million people in the US.
Right.
And that was the number one show for 5 years in a row. And you had to watch it when it was on because, you couldn't record it. There was no, and they got 40 million people a week watching that show out of 200 million people. And so you had this shared common experience in the US, in America. Like we all watched that show. I mean, it was a little before, like I wasn't watching in 71, but um, was everyone would go to work the next day because no one worked from home, and you would talk about All in the Family. And so you're right. I mean, I don't know how big these audiences are, but even if it has a big audience, people are watching when they want and where they want, and sort of unless it's the Super Bowl, you know these experiences are just, even if we have the same experience, it's at different times, and we're not just all talking about them at the same time.
Yeah, and I don't think that makes for a better world, because part of what kept everyone together was the fact that you had shared experiences. When you can get delivered to you anything that you want, and even if it's an audience of 1,000 people, you still get it on a daily basis. It really creates these fractionalized groups and experiences. People feel lonelier today than ever before. And technically, it's ironic when you think about it, because you said it was 200 million people. Well, now there's 330 million people just in the States, and we feel lonelier.
Right, right.
And a lot of that is because what we're seeing and what we're reading is very, very, uh, people talk about the algorithms. The algorithms are not there to make your life better. The algorithms are there to make money. And I'm glad that Generation Z, where my kids are part of that generation, are starting to get away from it. And it's something that America has just completely, utterly failed. Government has failed to do anything about this because we're too focused on profits, and all our politicians are paid off. Nobody really cares what the effects are. Where Australia, the UK, New Zealand have taken very dramatic steps lately over the last few months. I don't think the United States will ever do it. So it's
Well, and you've got like 7 people who own everything now in
yep.
terms of media and internet access and sort of all the platforms. It literally is like 7 people who own everything. So,
And
uh,
AT&T was broken apart because it was a monopoly at one point. Remember that?
mhm,
Or not Bell Telephone, not AT&T. Um, and yet these larger companies aren't even questioned, or they are questioned, but nothing ever happens.
right,
It
right.
doesn't make any sense to me anymore.
We could talk about that forever because I just came back from a trip. I was in, Raleigh.
Mhm.
And, on my phone, I have all my, location sharing turn off. And I land and I start getting these texts from these companies. Hey, we see you're in Raleigh. But I'm like, how the heck did they know? And I was like, I don't even want to think about this. Like, I keep telling my wife, when I retire, I'm getting rid of my cell phone. And she's like, no, you're not. I'm like, I'm not going to, I'm going to have a flip phone and that's it. Because I don't want to be as connected as we are. But I think you're right in terms of, um, the kids who have grown up with this stuff are rejecting it a little bit. I mean, they're still on the screens a lot, but it seems to me that they understand that they're being trapped by these platforms, right? It's like you said, it's to keep you engaged, it's to keep you outraged, it's to keep you there. And I think, I hope that to some extent that they're breaking free from that. At least that's experienced in my house here, right? So I have one kid and I see like he met his girlfriend at a carnival. I was like, thank God, like not, on
That's
some
the
app or
only way.
something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, all we could do is my wife and I tell the kids, we have two boys, as much as we can, don't be too swayed by what you read and see on the news. Even there's news on TikTok. There's news on. I said this country has been through extraordinary circumstances many times, and none of those have broken us. I don't think the reaction to these threats is always appropriate. I think the press is in. One of the things that really upset me was last year when they had those floods in North Carolina. Do you remember those?
Mhm.
They were hardly covered anywhere.
Yep.
They were covered on social media by people that were there. But if you turn into CNN or any other channel, which I stopped watching since then, but it's like it wasn't even happening, and all they care about is politics. So we sometimes need to go through down events. I tell them to fix things, and I think we're experiencing that now. The Charlie Kirk murder is obviously a turning point of some kind. Uh,
Right.
we'll see what that means, but we've been through a lot of bad times before, and we've come out better on the other side. And hopefully, this is one of those things where we're not just facing events that are happening, we're facing isolation because of these devices. We're facing a generation that has a much lower attention span, a generation that has less ability to communicate socially because they don't have the experience doing it.
Right.
And we can just do what we can do as parents, and hopefully our kids listen and they spread the word, and other parents do the same.
Well, we were talking about or we are talking about sort of how everyone can compartmentalize what they're exposed to.
Yeah,
And
I try to anyway.
I'll be completely honest. I don't know if this is a good thing or a bad thing. I never heard of Charlie Kirk before he got shot. Never
I
heard of the
knew
name.
of him. I knew of him, but I
Like I
didn't
saw
really
his
know.
picture. I've saw some of his clips, but I never knew the name. And then when he was shot, I was like, that's a horrible, like this is a horrible thing. You're watching this person right in front of you. But I didn't understand the reaction that was going to happen from it because I had never had the connection to him, right? So I didn't know, on one side or the other side. And it just blew up like in terms of the visceral reaction by everybody to that event. And I felt like an outsider a little bit. I'm like, I don't get it. Like I get it from a human level, but I don't get it from, all the other stuff, but and the politics around it. But I think that's a great example of, how separate we are, right? It's no Walter Cronkite talking to everybody every night, and on CBS, right? CBS,
And this
Walter
is
Cronkite.
how it was today.
Right. So what about, we got to get off of politics because I'm going to get depressed.
Well, I'll say one thing. It's actually, I don't know if it'll depress you or not, but it's my observation. So we've done a lot of work working with politicians over the last few years, and I'll be vague to not get anybody in trouble. But we were at a state house that day that we were at a state house, which was not New Jersey. Um, the news was covering an event at that state house between Republicans and Democrats. It was a big fight. So as we walked around the state house, you saw the cameras in front of politicians. Oh, I hate this guy, and these guys are crazy. As soon as the cameras turned off, we were invited to meet with a politician at a restaurant bar uh, next to the state house. It's invitation only, and almost all the people we saw on TV were at this place. And I
Right.
can tell you, they it, it was a joke. I mean, everything we see on TV, I believe, is a lie.
Mm,
They were friendly and they were fighting on TV, but in real life, they're friends.
right.
They were friendly with each other, having drinks, and it changed my entire worldview. What I was seeing on television was a dramatic enactment of something that in real life apparently didn't exist.
Right. Right.
And it just really, it changed my point of view to the point where it really has repercussions for my whole life. Like what you are being told and shown may not be the truth and probably isn't. Um, and that's just from my direct observation, not a conspiracy website. I saw it myself.
Well,
So
I don't disagree with you. Let's just put it that way.
yeah,
I've seen a little bit of evidence of that myself. So because these ladies and gentlemen who are in the public eye, they would get eviscerated if they were seen commiserate,
right, right.
with the other side. Like, this is ridiculous. I don't remember the event, but it was a funeral or something, and Chris Christie was at it, and he was holding hands with Nancy Pelosi, and she just looked at him and said, "I don't." And there were pictures obviously
Oh
being
God, don't
taken.
put that on the internet.
Well, and she just looked at him and said, "I don't know who this is going to be worse for, you or me." And because they were trying to be at this event, holding hands at a prayer service, and then you have left and right. Base at the time there was left and right many years ago, and right. So and that was used in campaigns. I remember when Christie ran for president, it was all over. Like, look at him holding hands with Nancy Pelosi, right? And this is from other Republicans. I was like, all
At a
right,
certain point, we have to take the citizens control again.
right,
And like my neighbor and I are like, as opposed to, we disagree on all politics. If there was anything, well, it has happened. My dog is lost. He's the first one to get it.
right,
We
right,
just create it's almost like we have nothing to do, so we'll create some drama, and we just have to stop it.
right.
It's just so silly.
Um, you didn't depress me with the politic talk there, but I do want to move on to one other thing, if you don't mind.
Well, yeah,
Um,
that was my fault.
no, no, I love it. I could do this for hours. I've become a radical moderate in my old age. So,
Same here. Same here.
yes. So what about, we talked a little bit about esports gambling. What about sports gambling and the history of that, particularly in New Jersey, because that's sort of where it really talked a little bit about Chris Christie, but isn't that where it really was pushed through? Was in New
Yeah.
Jersey?
New Jersey is the most aggressive in expansion of gambling. The goal being to benefit New Jersey citizens. Um, New Jersey sued the federal government, I
Yep.
think it's called PAPSA, for sports wagering and won. New Jersey also was the first to put online casinos, uh, to launch online casinos. And New Jersey will be the first one to have online regulated video games. New Jersey is very aggressive because states kind of compete against each other for revenue. Um, but also there a lot of it is driven off the fact that they want to clear out the black market There's
Mhm.
a lot more gray market, black market than people realize. And those sites don't have any protections at all, often for the players. So there's something called sweepstakes gambling. I don't know if you've heard of it.
I have not.
Sweepstakes gambling is huge. Sweepstakes gambling, just imagine if you listen to online, you hear a commercial for Chumba Casino, which happens all the time. Even like where I live in Linwood, near Atlantic City, they're on the radio all the time. Chumba Casino is illegal in New Jersey, but they're still on the radio because you can go to the website. You don't have to give them any ID. Um, you log in and you play the exact same casino games that you play from Caesars or FanDuel or any of those things. The difference is you can use your credit card.
Mhm.
So if you could imagine that, how much debt you can get into using a credit card,
Oh my gosh.
and they don't really have a way to identify you. So it could be a child. Really, there's no way to know that it isn't a child. And more importantly, or just as importantly, it could be someone who has a serious gambling problem.
Right.
And there's no way to identify that person. So in a regulated casino site, and the reason New Jersey's so aggressive about it is to often to combat these black market sites where someone with a gambling problem is not just identified but banned from the system. Or if you have a gambling problem, you can self-identify and ban yourself. So that if you go on any site, they all kind of share that information and say, hey, this player has identified that they have an issue. If they come from this IP, if they have this driver's license, if they have this, whatever it is, do not let them engage in gambling. Well, black market sites don't have those problems. So
Right.
if you have a gambling problem, you'll lose your house. And part of what we did when we first started this project, we sat in on Gambling Anonymous meetings. They are horrific meetings. People who have actually lost their house. One person that gambled away their kids' student loans because they had access to it. Um, it's a serious issue.
It's
But
huge. It's huge. And I've had family in that position where they've sort of lost everything, not to online gambling, but to you know, sports gambling. And,
right,
before, this is back in the 80s and things like that. So, um, no, I've heard that the sports betting and sort of getting into debt around gambling is particularly problematic for young men,
yes.
college age, teenage, and having a teenage, soon to be in college, young man. That kind of worries me. Now, luckily, he's not, a sports guy. He's not a gambling guy. So that's like out of the thousand worries you have as a parent, that's one I don't have at the top of my mind. So what is the scope of that problem? And is it more men than women? And sort of, what can we as parents do around, helping our kids avoid or get out of that loop?
So going back to America and what makes us different than most other countries is the battle between how much we restrict people's ability to do what they want to do or what they think they want to do. In England, they had a very similar problem with sports wagering and casino wagering that was so problematic. The regulations were less than what we have here in New Jersey, but in the UK, it was so problematic that they had to severely limit the wager amounts. So instead of saying wagering $100, now you're limited to five, and you can only do it X amount of times.
Hmm.
In New Jersey, the stats have started coming out that say that younger generations, college students mostly, are wagering on sports books. What's interesting about it is most college students are under 21. So how that's actually happening is one question. It probably goes back to those illegal sites that we were talking about. Some of them being fantasy sites, fantasy
Hmm.
sports, which are actually not regulated sites either. If you follow the law, you have to be over the age of 21 to gamble on anything related to sports. But there is evidence that people under the age of 21 are wagering heavily on sports. That goes back to the issue of what's the difference between what New Jersey's doing in other states and other places is going aggressively to regulate things to make sure that if you're going to be part of it, you have to identify yourself. Um, and I think whether we are saying to society at large that we're going to let you do what you want to do. You want to smoke, you want to drink, you want to gamble. It's up to you is one thing, but being responsible, you have to put frameworks in place so people don't get hurt. It's the reason that we have to wear seatbelts. It's the reason that,
Right.
right? So I think we need to look into where these people are gambling because technically they should not be able to.
Right.
So we have to really look into that and figure out what's going on and be aggressive about fixing those issues. Now, if you're saying over the age of 21 and 25, a lot of what I mean, it's all anecdotal to me. I don't. My specialty is not sports gambling, but I see on TV how 5 years ago you could watch a broadcast and not see any sports
Yep.
wagering ads, and now all you see is sports wagering ads and maybe medical ads. If you see those medications, right? It's like the combination of some sort of medicine.
ED medication and FanDuel or whatever's
Yeah,
out there.
it's just crazy, right? So I think we really need to tone it down. You know, I think when you're setting up that NFL sports happen because of gambling, you've gone too far.
Right.
And there's literally not 1 minute you can watch a commercial during a Philadelphia Eagles game where there isn't a sports betting ad on. There just isn't. And years ago, the NFL was so against it, and then they went the exact opposite way, where they're just promoting it at every conceivable opportunity. And if you watch European football, soccer, most of the teams are sponsored by casinos.
Which is crazy to think about, like Pete Rose and gambling and being banned from baseball and sort of, where we are today in terms of how these leagues have embraced gambling. It's like 180 is there's got to be something more than a 180. Like it's so the opposite of
It's
how it was.
hypocritical to the extreme.
Yeah.
It's
I like
hypocritical
that.
to the extreme.
That's yeah. So, and I've seen you know, and obviously none of this is sort of proven or anything, but there's stories, you can bet on the first pitch if it's a strike or a ball, and then all of a sudden the pitcher's throwing the ball 40 feet down and it's bouncing the ball, and it's happened a couple of times, and is there an issue there? And it's just when I'm around, like we were watching the Ryder Cup this weekend. So there's 12 of us golfing. We went on a little golf trip, and it's Sunday, and it's getting exciting because it's getting close. Half of the guys are on their phones because, like, okay, what are the odds this guy wins? What are the odds that guy wins? This is something like, and I don't have it. I've never done it, so I'm just watching the dynamic. I'm watching, half of us are watching and enjoying this, and half of are enjoying something else. They're enjoying the odds and the betting, and they're putting $2 and $3 and $5 down, and they're rooting for someone to make a putt or miss a putt, and it's just become so, and I see this with fantasy football. Like I'm not in any of those leagues, but now my friends root for players. They're not rooting for their favorite team anymore. This guy is playing against my team, but I have him on my league. I have to root for him.
Uh,
This is very different.
South Park. Did you watch South Park last week?
I did not. It's
Yeah.
it's on I was away, so I haven't watched it.
South Park has become very relevant again. That was what the last week's episode was about sports betting apps. But they weren't betting on sports betting apps. I'm not going to say what it was, but it's a political thing, which I will not mention here. But it is South Park. Um, but it shows you how endemic they are because they were wagering on will Kyle's mom do this or that, and they were talking about the odds. And one of the things that they talk about and on the show is what basically you were just saying. What's to stop a player from throwing an erroneous pitch if they know they can help a buddy make $50,000?
Well, that's what's
Like it's
happening in the news now.
impossible to control.
Right, right,
Like it's utterly impossible.
right.
So but then getting upset that it happens seems hypocritical when you allow companies, investors in New York, Wall Street to wager on whether a company will fail or not, and
Mhm.
then see that company cause issues for that company that makes it fail.
Right.
right? Like people are wagering on what was it? Toys R Us to fail when they put that leverage buyout on it, but they caused it to fail.
Right.
Like you can't. Why? How is that legal? So you know,
Now, what when it,
it's
going
all
back to
crazy, Craig. It's all crazy.
when we talk about esports, like when we talk about regular sport, live sports, Super Bowl is the event. Like in America, right? You've got the World Cup outside the
Yep.
US, but in the US, everybody knows the Super Bowl. What's the Super Bowl of esports? Like what's the big event for esports?
There's these events in Katowice, Poland, that get 300-400 million viewers.
What? Really?
Yeah,
Wow.
and they're very quite common. Actually, events happen in Katowice every couple of months that are that large. Um, the big differentiator why most people over the age of 40 don't know is because there's the old media, cable television, and then there's people that are not tied to cable television that watch, they're on online somewhere. And the streams don't cross very much. Younger people don't watch
Right.
late shows, for example, like Jimmy Kimmel, unless there's something big happening. And older people don't really know anything about streamers. Like, for example, I watch these news streamers called the Young Turks. They've been around for about 10 years.
That I've heard of them.
Their viewership exceeds CNN,
Wow.
but no one really takes them seriously in the way they take CNN seriously. It
Right.
doesn't really make a lot of sense, right? And it's where that line is, whether you are on cable television or off of cable television or mainstream media and independent media. Um, the numbers are very shocking. You'd be very surprised that more people watch Kimmel on YouTube than they do on
Mm,
cable. So esports falls into one of those categories where people that watch it are almost exclusively on some sort of mobile app or YouTube or Twitch, not watching it on anything that's on cable, even though they've tried several times.
right.
So most people on cable will never have ever heard of it. Just like I never heard of it until I really went to Korea and saw it on their cable channels. It's a different culture over there, but so I think it's one of those things that is media starts to fracture, and I actually think cable probably has 5-10 years left. Comcast is in deep trouble. You'll start to see video games more and more becoming events wise. Every year there is an event that I go to called the Game Awards, which is essentially the Academy Awards for video games. I attended. It's a big gala. It's fancier, if you can imagine that, in a certain way than, or just as fancy as the Oscars.
Hmm.
The Oscars last year, I forget what the numbers are, but I'm gonna paraphrase, around 10 million viewers. The Game Awards had 120 million live viewers.
Wow.
So if you look at that, where you have 10 million live viewers for movies and 120 live viewers, a third of the country, watching live on the internet because it's not offered on any cable channel,
Right.
that tells you where the future of media is going. So esports and video games are just getting bigger and bigger. They're not getting bigger, they're big.
Right.
There are a
Right.
certain audience that's a younger audience than the under 50 crowd.
Well, like you said, there, as the olders go away and there's more youngers, they're just going to naturally gravitate to how they grew up, right? So the late night talk show hosts are sort of going. I remember again watching the new guy. We were, back when my kid would watch stuff with me, we're watching it, and he goes, "Dad, that guy's really famous," and I had to pause it. I'm like, "Who is that guy?" And he'd be some streamer or some YouTube guy. And I'm like, really? He goes, oh yeah, he has like 300 million followers. I was like, huh. And then we'd play a little bit, and she goes, oh, that girl, she's real famous, Dad. I'm like, how do you know? Like, just completely different worlds. Like, and then of course we would see some older folks. I'm like, oh, he's real famous over there. He was in this thing and that thing, and so it's just this total disconnect between things he's consuming and that generate and what I'm consuming. It's just
But
totally
Mr.
different.
Beast is way more popular than Johnny Carson ever was. But older people don't really give that credibility. Right? Mr. Beast, I forget how many followers he has, but it's a massive amount.
Huge, right? Number one on YouTube, or like he
I
was
mean,
with.
it's massive, and
Yeah,
it's bigger than Johnny Carson ever was, but
yeah,
we remember Johnny Carson because it was a different time, but
right.
they'll remember MrBeast in a similar way. I just wish, and maybe it's just my oldness speaking, that there was more formality to it, because Johnny Carson at the show and the opera, and it was a big deal, and people like to dress up to attend, and everything today is so casual that nothing seems to matter. If that makes sense.
Yeah,
Right? And I think that making things more formal and maybe scheduling things so at 7 p.m. we could all tune in and watch
right.
collectively, I think would alleviate some of the issues you talked about earlier where there's so much loneliness and isolation. We need to create a culture again, um, to get back together.
Well, it goes back to the All in the Family thing, right? We all sat down before me. They would sit down, and 40 million out of 200 would watch the same thing at the same time. And now you could have 100 million people watching something, but if it's over the course of a month, it's sort of not the same, right? It's
Right.
it's it's just it's very different. Um,
Or you can have a TV show and some people watch it all in one night,
yes.
and then spoil it for the people that haven't. So it's
Don't tell me I didn't watch the end. Don't
right.
tell me. Yes. Yeah, and now, with the streaming, who has Hulu, who has Paramount, who has Prime, who has like I used to be able to know where everything was. Now it's like, what channel is this thing on? Is it on the Thursday or is it on Sundays?
Even
When we're
worse with
talking.
sports, right? Like, okay, well, I tune in. Where,
Right.
where's the Eagles? Oh, it's on Prime. Why is it on Prime?
Right. Right. Does someone have Prime? Whoever has Prime, come to my house because we gotta. No, it's awesome. So we've been talking for almost an hour, and I didn't. I am on page one of my notes. So
Oh, I'm sorry.
what
I kind of do
else?
that.
I, um, I do have to ask you, if where can I listen to you on the radio? What's the schedule there?
Oh, we're on WOND here in South Jersey. We're on every couple of weeks. It's kind of a loosey goosey, usually Fridays and Mondays.
Okay.
But we archive everything on the Galaxy One Radio podcast. So we get old radio episodes are all archived. Galaxy One Radio. It's at Spotify, iTunes, um, and yeah, I don't listen to it, of course, because I don't like the sound of my voice. But
Well, do you play some tunes, or is it all?
no, it's all
Is it
interview.
talk radio?
It's well, we do play music if it's a musical guest. So we had on the composer from Lucasfilm a few months ago, and we played some of his music from shows that he was on.
Hmm.
But and we have some really good bumper music that we created, but usually we won't play a lot of music unless it's guest related.
Got it. Got it. Got it. Um, what else? What's coming next in esports? What can we look forward to? Like, what's life gonna be like in 5 years? What are you working on?
Man, well, I think esports is has to make a decision in the United States as to whether the game publishers will allow the event organizers to to do what they want as opposed to trying to control them all the time. So, where esports is very different than professional sports is that you just get a football, you play, you create a league. The football manufacturer doesn't control what you do. And video games, because you're playing somebody else's video game, the maker of that video game will very actively control what you do,
Hmm.
and limit how much money you could make. So part of the reason why esports has not taken off in the US as it has everywhere else is simply because of greed. The publishers don't know what's good for them. They control these events much more than they should. I think it really needs to be there needs to be a legal case where somebody who bought access to this game should be able to operate it freely. Um, and there have been cases like that in the past. For example, Monopoly. There was a Monopoly tournaments. They were played in Atlantic City, of all things, where Monopoly is based off of, where Milton Bradley sued the operator in court, and the operator won because um, the court decided that the operator had a license to play the game, and the manufacturer can't dictate how
Right.
that is. video games need to do the same thing. And until that happens, video game industry in the United States will remain fragmented to the for the most part. Um, in Asia, it is the biggest thing there is. It's becoming that way in South America and in Europe. So we're actually behind, even though we created the video games. Most of the video games that these games are based off are all American companies.
And breaking news, EA Sports has just been bought by the Saudi PIF, the Public Investment Fund.
And Jared Kushner.
And Jared Kushner, did not know that. I just saw the headlines. So I haven't even gotten into the details of exactly what went on there. So what does that mean for
It's bad.
EA? It's not good, huh?
No, no, it's a leverage buyout. So they're putting $20 billion of debt into the purchase. First of all, as I, if you go on my LinkedIn, I kind of raged about this. How are you allowed to buy something and put the purchase price on the thing you buy as a liability? It doesn't make sense.
So I have not researched this at all. I just saw the news this morning.
Well, that's
So
how Sears and Toys R Us both went out of business because of those kind of deals.
I miss Sears.
I miss Toys R Us. I actually miss both, but I think it's a bad sign. You'll see layoffs. If it was just a private purchase, that's great. But because it's a leverage buyout, you're running into an even worse situation. In a public company, you have to try to make more money every quarter. It's very difficult.
Mhm.
It's really kind of stupid when you think about it, right? You can't really do that very easily. So they have to find different ways to keep charging you for things, and you can't have too much innovation because if the innovation fails, then that whole area of business goes down and your stock price goes down. So they'll try to maximize reusing of old assets and games and try to put things like microtransactions, which everybody hates, but that's what the bottom line is when you're a public company. Now you're getting rid of that quarterly requirement of to make more money every quarter, but now you're putting in a massive debt that's going to be very, very difficult to pay off. $20 billion or almost 40% of the purchase price. So I
Well, that's sad because EA Sports was sort of the sports franchise that I grew up on. You know, Tiger
yeah,
Woods golf and John Madden football and NHL hockey. Like those were the things we all played in a room together. You know, with four controllers because that's all you can do at the time. And you know, sort of that was our little sports gaming worlds.
yeah, I mean same thing. I mean I played all when I was in college, NHL, EA NHL game was the game we played the most. But then you've seen rampant greed again from the NFL when they gave Electronic Arts the only license for football
Right,
about 15, 20 years ago. And the quality every year, the game's the same game, right? Because they don't have
right,
no competition. You have to buy it from them. So
right.
I think you will see a company that is used to making 15 games a year, maybe go down to fit 5.
Right.
And they will focus on, if they can maintain Madden, they'll keep Madden. They'll maintain core franchises, probably sell everything else off. So I
Wow.
don't think it's a good move for Electronic Arts at all, and it's a horrible move for the employees.
Hmm.
And it continues. If you remember in the late '90s when the Japanese were buying everything in the United States, well, this is another trend where Saudi Arabia and the Middle East are buying everything that you know we hold dear. Buying TikTok. I mean, it's running rampant how much control we allow outsiders to have over things that are important to Americans,
Right. Right.
things that originated in America. We just sell it off, and Electronic Arts is no different, which is sad.
Well, I thought you got me depressed with the politics, but EA Sports, now I'm very depressed. What are you
I don't.
guys working on? What is your company working on?
Well, I mean, we are. The casino industry is online casino industry is relatively new. Um, Not only a handful of states run online casinos. I think about 7 or 8, depending on when you watch this. Very highly controlled, and the audiences tends to be very old. tends to be 45 to 50-year-old female primarily. I'm not talking.
I just want to say, I don't think that's old. Very
Well,
old.
I know I'm older than that. So, but from when you're talking about an interactive product,
Yes, yes.
it's the average age of the video game player is 35. So,
Really?
yeah. So
That's a
you,
little older than I was expecting.
well, not when you consider that you and I started back in,
Yeah, that's true.
me 70s, late 70s, and you early 80s. Um, it's not.
I'm older than you.
No, you're not. I'm 55.
I'm 57.
Yeah, you beat me. You're right. I thought you were 50. I don't know why I thought you were 50. Just you look
I
young.
just have a young personality.
You
That's,
do.
very charming.
But for the casino industry, having a 45, 50-year-old average gamer is not the optimal way to go. So what we're doing is we are mixing video game mechanics with traditional iGaming to create something for younger people, not kids, not teenagers, not. We're just taking what has worked for people. For example, Candy Crush, one of the most
Mhm.
popular games of all time.
Yep.
So what if you took that game, the mechanics of that game, and combined it with a slot machine, or you had a video game where there's progression and you could win prizes depending on how long you played the game, or where if you had a character attacking an army of ogres, maybe there's prizes. I mean, a lot of games in the video game world work that way, but what if we did it with actual real money? Um,
Mhm.
Again, not for kids, not for teenagers, not for young people. Regulated gambling is an entertainment product.
Yep.
So what we're doing and what we have been doing for the last 3.5 years is learning how iGaming works. I come from a gaming background. I've worked with and for companies like Microsoft and Electronic Arts, and I was creative director at Walt Disney Interactive for a number of years. So we're taking a lot of those learnings. We have people that work at our company that are from Electronic Arts. They created some of the biggest franchises there, SSX, Need for Speed,
Mhm.
and we're taking that learning and saying, okay, well, we're going to create video games, but these video games are for gambling, and they're going to be regulated.
Right.
Now, there is a huge, huge, huge market for unregulated video games. Again, no compliance, no what they call KYC, which is know your customer. Um, One game that I'm making a presentation for made over $50 million in a year.
Well,
The problem is we don't know who's playing. So by saying, okay, well, there's some really good ideas here, but we're going to make sure it's only adults playing, and we're going to make sure that these adults are play responsibly. That's what we've been working on at Godhammer Gaming Group for a number of years.
well, that's awesome. Like I said, I've got some family members who fell on the wrong side of that gambling problem. So to hear that you guys are out in front of, keeping kids safe and even adults, it's fantastic. Anthony, again, I could talk to you for the rest of the day, but I'll respect your time here. If folks want to follow you or talk to you or sort of get in touch, like what's the best way to connect with you?
I I think probably just either LinkedIn or just listen to our radio show, the Galaxy One Radio. I'm not shy. I do a lot of public speaking, but I don't do a lot of like Twitter. I hate Twitter anymore. Um, uh,
X, right? We have to call it X now.
X, it's always going to be Twitter.
I know.
Um,
I'm the same.
yeah, it's Twitter. Maybe we'll see you at a conference, at a video game conference. Go to the Game Awards. I'll be there.
Well, now I'm going to look out for her. Like you've piqued my interest here for sure.
The last Game Awards, Indiana Jones, well, Harrison Ford was. Look, these are big events, and if you go on YouTube and watch one of the Game Awards, the level of pomp and his grandeur is just shocking. It's shocking, and I think you'll start to see that other side of media that is not usually seen by people our age. It's a big world.
Well,
Um,
just you mentioned video game. I had no idea there were video game awards.
yeah, yeah. This is I think the 11th year now, and every year it gets bigger.
Right.
Every year it
Of
gets
course
bigger.
it does. If you have 100 million people watching an event, of course there's going to be an award show as well. I mean, that's the size and scope of this is even bigger than I thought. So, um, wow.
And it takes a lot of people to make a video game. People don't realize that, yes, you can have a handful of people make a video game, and that video game can make an award in the same way that an independent filmmaker can make an award, can win an award with a couple of people making a film. But some of these games have thousands of people making it.
Right.
Grand Theft Auto 6, which is coming out next year, um, has over 3,000 people making it. The greatest game of all time, which is Red Dead Redemption 2. If you know anything from this conversation, Red Dead Redemption 2 is the greatest video game ever made. Maybe the greatest media anything ever made. If you watch 1883, that television show on Paramount
Hmm.
Plus, basically that show is a television version of this game, which came out about 7 years ago. Red Dead Redemption had about 1,000 people make it. Made 7 years ago, still one of the greatest things ever made by human hands. It is, and the fact that most people don't know that shows you that age gap.
Well, and again, I'm on that other side of that gap because first I'm hearing of it. I
Check it
thought the
out.
greatest video game ever was Minecraft. I thought that was
Minecraft is more like an activity, right? It has it. I don't know if Minecraft and Roblox even qualify as games.
that's true. That's true. I
Yeah,
guess especially Minecraft is an activity, but Roblox they make their own games, right? Like
a little bit of both. It's an activity that has games in it, and
right.
Minecraft does it too. Um, but just pure games, like we're going to tell a story and a narrative. Red Dead Redemption 2 is the greatest game ever made.
Well, when we end this, I'm going to go on and take a look at that. I'm going to ask my son about it too. Have you ever heard of this thing? Someone says it's the greatest ever. He's like, Dad, you're so old.
No, that's it's he would have heard of it. Yes, you
He no, totally. He'd be like, "Of course I've heard of it, Dad. Come on. How could you not know
and
about
it's
this game?"
something I think if you played it yourself, I think you would love it. If you watch any of those Taylor Sheridan shows,
Hmm.
it's an interactive version of that, and it looks as good as anything you've ever seen.
We have, I will admit, we have in our basement sort of a racing simulator. We've got a seat with a steering wheel and we race, me and my son, and he brings his friends over. I always come in last, right? But the movement is so
Okay.
fast. I think at some point you just can't keep up with that level of back and forth and back and forth. And those kids just are naturals at it.
It sounds like me and everything else in the world. I just can't keep up. I listen. If you want to close this off, what I'm doing lately, and maybe this is what we should all do. I feel like watching television now or playing games is just a check off list that I have to like. Okay, watched it. Just focus on the things that you like and don't worry about completing a list or having to see every show that your friends are watching. You can't. You just can't possibly do it. So focus on the one thing you're doing and repeat every day and spend time with your family. That's all that matters.
Well, now you've uplifted me after the politics. So I've gone up and down. You've taken me on an emotional roller coaster today, Anthony.
Can you
Thank you.
imagine if Twitter existed when like Nixon was around or the
Oh,
Vietnam War or McCarthyism?
we have to have another one. So this was the greatest episode of the world's greatest podcast because it's definitely the longest. Like
Oh,
I don't want to end this, but I have to because you have other things to do.
I do.
But Anthony, thank you so much for being a guest on the show, and everybody who listened to the bitter end here. If you like this podcast, please subscribe to it, like it, share it with others, so we can grow our audience. Anthony, thanks again, everyone. You have a great day, and we'll see you next time on the world's greatest podcast.